What's up, Ranger Nation? It's been a minute since I saw you guys, right? So we are back, you guys. This channel is gonna be back up and popping, you guys. So we're gonna be doing, reviews going forward. I'm going to be doing some. Once I get settled into my life, once I get settled into my new apartment, once I get my apartment, once I get settled in, and we're gonna start watching some older seasons of Power Rangers and just discussing them. And I think the first series that I want to tackle will be Wild Force at some point, you guys. I don't know when it's going to be, but we'll definitely discuss Wild Force. But we're back now with Power Rangers Dino Fury Season 2, and we're also going to be doing Don Brothers reviews, you guys. So this is Power Rangers Dino Fury. This is Season 2, you guys. This is episode number 1. Technically, it's season well, I'm not even gonna, it's just episode 1, you guys. Numero 1 is the name of the episode. Now, Ranger Nation, if you guys are watching my videos and you guys are not subscribed to my channel, Ranger Nation, I just need you guys to stop watching the video. Not stop this video. Pause the video for just a second. Do me a favor. You can click on that like button, click that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell button so you guys are notified of when I drop any content on this channel, Ranger Nation. And with that, you guys, without further ado, let's discuss episode 1 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, the second half, shall we? All right, you guys, so I actually just have like one big question. If anyone can answer this question for me, leave it in the comment section, right? So, when, when does this take place? That's the question that I have. When does this take place? How far after the final, the battle and the finale does this episode take place? That's the only question that I really truly have, right? All right, you guys. So we see the episode. So the episode starts up and we see a Sporix. So a Sporix is out and he's attacking the city, right? So then we see Zato just flying over, rooftops and everything, right? So then we see it's Zato, it's Ollie, it's Izzy, Javi, and it is Ion, right? So they're battling with the Sporix, whose name is Bitstream. And while they're battling with him, he eventually leaves, right? And they time it. So they're timing their battle. Javi had a joke that he had, and Izzy was like, "Really, Javi? That was the joke you come up with, right?" So then Amelia shows up, and they timed Amelia. She's like, "You guys timed me." So Amelia missed the battle because at this point, Amelia is, running Buzz Blast because Jane and Jayborg, they're out and they're doing an assignment, right? So not Izzy, but Amelia has taken over the reins at Buzz Blast, right? So then we do see Amelia. She's at Buzz Blast, and Amelia has her hands full, right? So we see Amelia. She is in Jane's office, and we see Javi in there. He's on his his piano, his keyboard, and he's playing a song, right? So she's coming up with this series that she's gonna work on, and he's helping her come up with the theme song, right? But then another young lady comes in, and she's asking Amelia for her assistance. Then Amelia leaves out of the office, and she's being pulled in she's been pulled in different directions, right? So Amelia basically has her hands full with this whole situation, right? She's a ranger and she's working at Buzz Blast, right? So then Jane gives Amelia a call, and Jane tells Amelia, like, "Hey, Jayborg and I were, like I said, Jane and Jayborg are on an assignment, and what they're gonna do is Jane and Jayborg are going to extend their trip, right?" And she's like, "Oh, you're gonna extend your trip? Yeah, things are going so well, so we're gonna stay a little longer. Can you handle it?" Unfortunately, I don't think Amelia can handle it, right? So then we move over to the command center, and we see, it's Ion, it's Zato, it's Ollie, and it's Solon, right? So Ollie, he's on, FaceTime of sorts with Dr. Akana, who I believe is in Japan. She's doing some work over there, right? So he hangs up with her, and then we see Zato and Ion. They're still trying to find Planet Rafcon, right? And they don't know what they're looking. They don't know what they're looking for. Which, I mean, would you expect them to know what they're looking for? I mean, you lived on this planet for years, so you necessarily wouldn't know what your planet looks like, right? So they're trying to find it, and Ollie was like, "Well, why don't you guys utilize, the internet and the library, right?" And Ion was like, "Can we trust this library? He sounds kind of sketchy." And Ollie was like, It's not a person. It's a place where you go and do research, right? He says, so I'll give you guys the address. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here and I'm going to move forward, you guys. So next up, we see Mucus and Slither, right? So Mucus and Slither are at Area 62, and Mucus and Slither, you guys remember, Void Knight has that secret room that has Centaura in it, but Mucus and Slither don't know what's actually in that room, right? So now what they're going to do is they're going to try to do like Miley Cyrus and come in like a wrecking ball and knock it down, because we see Mucus, she's on the wrecking ball and she slams into the door, but it does nothing to the door, right? So she turns into a puddle of slime. So then the computer systems start going, there's this message on the computer systems, and it's Void Knight's voice, right? And he says he needs something from them, and they're like, how do we know that you're actually Void Knight? Because Void Knight would have, blasted us or destroyed us by now, right? So then Bitscreen materializes from the computer, right? And Bitscreen tells them, if you don't do what he says, I'll delete you. And they're like, we believe you. So then we see Javi, Ion, and Izzy. They've left from the library, right? And Izzy got a phone call from Fern, so she answers the phone calls, and you can hear on the phone. It sounds, if you guys, I'm about to age myself, but if you guys are from the, going back to the days of dial-up on the telephone with the internet, it sounds like dial-up to me, right? So then, while she's on the phone, she takes her phone, and Bitscreen materializes once again, right? So then the Rangers, they morph and they start battling with Bitscreen, right? Completely ruins Ion's books, right? So they also ruin this card as well, which that'll come into play in just a little bit, right? So while the Rangers are battling with Bitscreen eventually, he just ran away, and right? So then after Bitscreen dipped out, that's when the guy who owns this cart comes out, right? And he's telling them, like, you guys destroyed my cart, like, you guys need to fix my cart, right? And so Javi uses the Fixit Dyno key, right? And the Fixit Dyno key fixes everything that they have messed up, right? Meanwhile, there's a security camera that's above them, and you can see it. Bitscreen is in that security camera, right? You can hear that that noise again. Like I said, sounds like dial up, and so then Bitscreen materializes again and takes the Fixit Dyno key, right? So now the Rangers have lost the Fixit Dyno key to Bitscreen. So then we see the Rangers, so they're in the base, right? And they're trying to figure out, like, why would Bitscreen take the Fixit Dyno key? Like, Sporix, their whole mission is to destroy, smash and destroy, right? That is, unless they're taking orders from Void Knight, right? But then they were like, but Void Knight was destroyed. And they were like, well, was he really destroyed? Because they didn't see anything. The only thing that was left of Void Knight was his saber in that final battle, right? So they don't technically know that Void Knight has been destroyed, right? So they start looking at the camera footage, right? And they're trying to figure out how did Bitscreen even know about the Fixit Dyno key, right? So they look and they see him come down, right? Takes the Fixit Dyno key, but then they keep watching a little bit longer, and they then realize, oh, that's what it was. This was a trick that was set up between Bitscreen and I was about to say Scrozzle, Bitscreen and I'm about to say Weisel, Bitscreen and what is his name? Oh Jesus, what is his name? Bitscreen and Slither. How am I forgetting my boy's name? Bitscreen and Slither, because they see Slither and he turns from the human form back into Slither, right? So while they're talking, Izzy hears that sound once again. The sound that she heard when she got the phone call from Fern, but Bitscreen was eavesdropping, right? So she realizes it's Bitscreen. So she gets in front of the computer. She tells the Rangers, like, hey, what we need to do is we need to destroy, Void Knight's saber. So that way, if they are trying to bring him back, they won't have his saber, right? So then they all start looking at her like, what are you talking about? And she closes the computer, and then she throws her jacket on top of the computer, right? And I was like, I guess the computer was cold. She says that I heard a sound from the computer, and it reminded me of when Bitscreen was in my phone eavesdropping, listening to my conversation with Fern. So they're like, oh, so we're duping them. Absolutely. So we're going to pause here, you guys, and we're going to move forward. All right, you guys, so then we see Bitscreen. So Bitscreen is back at Area 62, and he's telling Void Knight what the Rangers' plan is, that the Rangers want to take his saber and destroy it, right? And Bitscreen tells Void Knight that he has a plan in place to stop the Rangers, right? So then we see the Rangers. So they're outside of, Dyno Hinge, right? And the thing that threw me was the fact that the Rangers actually have Void Knight's saber. And I was like, why did they have his actual saber, right? Why didn't they make a replica, a fake of his saber, right? So that way, in case they do just so happen to get Void Knight's saber, why not make a fake one, right? So they're acting, and it's so terrible, the acting that they were doing. It was very affected, right? And even Amelia was like, come on, Ollie's acting, we got to do better than that. And then she chimes in. I'm like, oh, and your acting is much better, Amelia. Okay, I see you, right? So again, like I said, I just kind of question, why did they actually use Void Knight's actual saber in this whole situation? It's just a little interesting to me that they used Void Knight's saber, right? So while they're doing this, Amelia got a phone call from Stan over at Buzzblast, right? So Zato and the others are watching the saber, right? And they're like, it's way too quiet. So then we see Mucus and Slither appear, right? So they're dealing with Mucus and Slither. Amelia, who is supposed to be watching the saber, she's not, because she's on the phone. She's multitasking, which multitasking is not a real thing, people, because you can only focus on one thing at a time. But she's focused on the computer. She's looking at the computer, but she's talking to Stan, right? So while she's doing that, Bitscreen once again materializes, and he takes that Void Knight saber, right? So then we see the Rangers. So they morph, right? And then they go into battle with Bitscreen, more specifically Zato. Zato calls on the Zords to go into battle with Bitscreen, right? He defeats Bitscreen. Meanwhile, we see Void Knight. So Void Knight is in his human form in Area 62 in the secret room. He has the saber, and what he's trying to do is he's trying to restore his armor, right? So he does restore his armor. So the Rangers, once Bitscreen has been destroyed, they're thinking like, so what next, right? Because they don't know where Bitscreen's Sporix is, right? And he was like, Zeta was like, the only thing that was in there was cat videos, right? But the computer explodes, and there is Bitscreen's Sporix, right? So then Void Knight shows up, takes the Sporix, and he leaves, right? So then we see the Rangers, they're over at Buzzblast, and Amelia is talking to the team like, she realizes that she's just taking on a lot, right? That she's trying to be a Ranger, but she's also trying to run Buzzblast, and she has to make a decision. But the decision is actually an easy one with the Void Knight being back, right? So she's gonna call Jane and tell Jane that, hey, at this point, I'm gonna have to step down from step down and not do as much, take on your duties at Buzzblast. But it all works out perfectly because Jane and Jayborg have returned back from their trip, right? So that is the end of episode 1 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, the second half. Let me know what you guys thought about the episode. Please get down in the comment section, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, you guys, share the video, and until the next one, stay safe, take care of yourselves, wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time for episode 2.